Welcome to the That Pitch Podcast. The That Pitch Podcast helps music producers and artists tap into the world of sync licensing, publishing, music business, and more. So if you're tired of trying to make it and are more interested in making a living, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Mark, the founder of ThatPitch.com. Today, I'm joined by my good buddy, Kurtis Parks, a music producer based in Richmond, Virginia. By way of Nashville, Tennessee, though.
Oh, yeah.
And he's landed, I mean, you're one of one of the OGs for That Pitch. You've landed a bunch of placements with us at this point.
Yeah.
So, and you just landed more this month, which is great.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing to land songs.
But before we get into that, dude, so you just moved to Richmond. How long were you in Nashville for? And like what, cause you're going from a massive music scene into a smaller music scene, but you seem to be loving it there. Mm-hmm. You know that I don't live in New York, Nashville, or LA. So it's always kind of cool to help everybody know, like there's music scenes all around the world and they're all dope, and we're all connected through the internet. So.
Yeah, I was in Nashville for 5 years. I had been in DC for 7 years before that. And before that, I was actually in Nashville again. So kind of a collective of 10 years in Nashville, Music City. I was touring with a rock band from 2005 to 2010. And then I moved up to Washington, D.C. in 2010. I joined a church there that has 8 campuses. They were meeting in nightclubs, coffee houses, movie theaters. Wow. And I oversaw all of the music. We did about 9 records during that stint. And we're signed with a major label. It was fun. It was really cool. So big songwriting culture up there. And then I moved to Nashville for the second time in 2017. And that was when we actually started a church from the ground up. We were meeting in a music venue / bar downtown. Really fun time. And then, of course, that whole time I was still traveling, playing music, producing, doing a lot of stuff like with That Pitch, of course. And
of course.
and literally, dude, 2 weeks ago, last week, I'm like, what day is it? Last week, we moved up to just south of Richmond, Virginia. It's an area called Chester and Hopewell. And I'm working at a church here now, overseeing the music and pastoring the team. And I was just showing you, Mark, some of the stuff that we've got here. We run and operate a movie theater. We've got an incredible auditorium, just great facilities. But man, it's the people that make this place special, and a lot of musicians, a lot of great people. So yeah, I mean, Richmond has a dope music scene. In fact, my wife and I, we almost moved here 17 years ago.
Richmond is a dope town. It's like one of the most underrated cities in America, in my opinion. It's so awesome. I love it, dude. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so it's all fresh, it's all new, and we're here for it, man.
So, okay, question for you. So I know I'm Jewish, but like I know a lot of friends that grew up playing worship music, and it's kind of cool because you really get like a music education for like contemporary music, like every Sunday, which is dope, and I've always loved that. So like, I know you kind of went in the route of like, all right, this is my thing. I'm making a bunch of music in this style already. Right. But like what I've always found interesting about you is anytime we've gotten a brief specifically for CCM, for those of you who don't know what CCM is, it's contemporary Christian music. Mm-hmm. I've always been like, all right, we need Kurtis on this because like he knows this really well. Yeah. But you've landed placements in like a plethora of different genres, and like this, I don't want to go like straight into the placements, but it's always exciting talking about like getting paid and then getting like more residuals and just like building everything. That's why we're here. Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's cool because like this month you landed a bunch of piano placements. Mm-hmm. And so do you ever like kind of think, I don't know, do you ever think like CCM is kind of like a header genre and there's so many things that you can make that can make you money that, comes from this one sort of like specialty? Does that make any sense? Like,
yeah, it makes total sense, man. I mean, growing up, I was kind of like, my dad started me on piano when I was 11 years old. And I mean, that just kind of was the foundation of everything. I learned drums, bass, guitar, mandolin, and obviously singing. But really my roots are in piano. I would go downstairs and play on our old out-of-tune upright for hours on end.
Hell yeah,
and that's honestly like where I just fell in love with music, man. And so, for me, yeah, obviously in church music. So CCM is like second nature to me. But it is very similar to pop and rock, and it even has some elements of, folk in there now. But I think it's a great learning experience when you learn CCM, because it's not your grandma's hymnal. I mean,
right.
Now, when you go to church, like we've got, 2 electrics on this weekend. We've got 2 keys on stages and aux keys. We'll play with live drums, percussion. So it's a huge. It feels very like, people kind of joke around like Coldplay kind of has that worship band sound, but it's true. It kind of has a lot of those pop and rock sensibilities to it. But for me, man, the reason I think that I've been able to have some success in like the acoustic and the folk and the classical and even corporate is because they all kind of pull from that overall sensibility of CCM, pop rock. And so if you don't go too far out of that framework, I think you're going to find some success in all of those fields, man.
Yeah. And like just make a lot of music. Like I've always, like anytime we have briefs, you're just always writing. There's like the plethora of tracks that you have is just insane. You're just always making like, anytime we have a brief, you're like, all right, I'm doing it.
Go for it.
Yeah. It's just like, a lot of people don't like, everybody thinks it's just quality. It's like quality over quantity, but it's both. You need a lot of tracks, and you need a lot of good tracks because they're all like little rental properties that somebody, can rent out for a little bit or use or whatever. It's cool. You have like no ego attached to like any of the music you make. You just make so much of it and you're always putting in, which is cool. So I kind of want to take it back like a little bit, because you grew up, playing in church. You got into a rock band. Were you pursuing building like a band, like actually doing the damn thing, or and then now you're doing everything. It's just dope because like you really diversified. And so how did all of that happen?
Man, being in Nashville for so long and doing music full time, you quickly learn like you can't just have one revenue stream and expect to pay the bills. It's like you really do have to, kind of get out there and, be somewhat of a mini mogul. You find just different ways to do what you love, get paid for it. And I think for me, going back to 2005, I this is before the YouTube era, but I was actually on American Idol way back in the day.
Hell yeah.
Like with Carrie Underwood. So I always joke around that nobody stood a chance. Like Carrie was by far the greatest thing of all time. But so going on that show, I really developed this like, oh man, I think I could actually do this. Like, I think I could do music full time. And so I went back to my hometown of Roanoke, Virginia, and just began to like hustle, man, like putting together shows and then, playing at weddings and doing different things to just be able to do music full time, whatever that looked like.
What were your different revenue streams? I'd love to, like, when you were first starting out versus like as your career progressed, what did that look like? How many different things? Because I think we all started like just doing everything we can, and then you start specializing in one thing, you see what's making the most sense. But
starting off, it was, anything I could get my hands on. I was playing in some cover bands. I was playing for weddings. Of course, I was leading church music. I would tour a little bit, play youth camps, do some different conference stuff. And then I got into production. And I realized, man, I started off producing demos for $150 a song back in the, 2006, 2007. And then I would do one record, buy better mics, buy better pre's, do another one, charge $300 a song, charge $500 a song. And then just bit by bit, I got to a place where I was able to charge like $1,500 a track, and people were ready and willing and able to pay that. And so, you got to start somewhere. But I think the biggest myth is like, well, I need X, Y, and Z to get started. And it's like, no, like you need the skill set. And once you have that, like start with what you have in your hands and just grow from there. And, for me, I've always been just very like driven to build relationships, not just to look at people for like what they can pay me or what I can get out of them, or even what they can get out of me, but like, can there be like a genuine like relationship here? And the cool thing about that is that's when it extends far beyond a project, because when they love you, then they're like, man, I got to tell all my friends, you got to work with Kurtis, or, I got to tell this person who's looking for a musician, hey, hire Kurtis, So relationship over just, what I can get out of you. And that's always served me pretty well, I think, in the long run.
Yeah. I think also, I think the reason why you've done so well is you don't ask for anything from people. You're just planting seeds. Mm-hmm. It's like the age old saying, like, you shouldn't have to hunt for work. You should just always be planting seeds, and then you can harvest whenever you want to.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
So I made actually a post yesterday about, I was talking to my buddy Randall. I think you might know Randall Foster at Symphonic.
I know, I've seen his name.
He's great. Awesome dude. And he made a post, and then I kind of made a post talking about that post. And the whole thing is, I've known people from junior A&R roles when they first got a gig at whatever label. And then they moved up and now they're on the executive team. Mm-hmm. You just never know where people are going to end up. And if you always treat people like, I don't really care what you're going to do for me, how can I just help you? People remember that, especially when they really don't have much to offer, Mm-hmm. I know early on in my career, whether it was drumming or production, touring, or, now here I am with Sync. I didn't know I was going to end up here. There was a music licensing company out of London, North Note Music Licensing. They're great. Adam runs it. Awesome dude. Love that guy. And my friend Charlotte, who at the time worked at Downtown Benelux and Cloud9 in Amsterdam. Now she works at Domino Publishing in London. And those were two of my main mentors early on. And they kind of knew I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know what I was doing, but we just had really good friendships, just the same mentality. And anytime that they were, dealing with something, the first thing I was like, well, I could do that for you. I could help. And, a lot of the stuff I didn't ask for pay or anything. It was just, how can I help? And that just turned into such great relations. And then next thing you know, they started asking hey, do you have this kind of music? Cause it's just a trust thing, you know? And that it's not just in Sync, but it's just the industry as a whole. It's we're so lucky to be working here. Even if you work really, really hard, I still think you should be extremely grateful and just know that you're lucky to be here. Cause it's so,
that's the thing. Yeah, that's an outlook on life. That's the outlook on life. I mean, just gratitude, not entitlement. Man, I'm putting out all these tracks. I better be landing all of the things. I mean, I'm just I'm going to throw, 15 tracks at the wall. And if 2 or 3 of them land, I'm grateful. If, this month might be a dry month, then I just got some extra practice in for the next one, So it's be grateful. And then it's always you can burn bridges or build bridges. And one is going to serve you well, and one is going to make no one want to work with you.
Yeah. I think it's also about just never, one of my old mentors, he worked at Charles Holloman Productions here in Charlotte, and they actually did voiceovers for Nemo and a bunch of massive movies. It's actually full circle because I didn't realize how cool commercial music is. At the time I was this, shit sucks. But now I'm oh, this is dope actually.
Yeah.
But he gave me just such great advice, and he was and I'll never forget it. He's never give anybody a reason to talk shit about you. So
that's good advice.
And even if somebody does nasty things to you in the industry or whatever, if they ever come up in conversation, just pay some sort of compliment about them. And so if that person ever gets back to that other person, they're like, hey, I talked to so-and-so, and that person doesn't like you or whatever, they're just going to be the ones that's talking shit. And you're the one who just was friendly and super cool. So to that person, they're going to be well, that guy's negative,
Yeah. Bingo. So,
just never give a reason for anybody to talk shit. And I don't know. I've kind of always, and the thing is that 99% of the things that you do in the industry, you're not going to get paid for, but it still feels good helping everybody,
Yeah. Yeah. If you leave a trail of goodness, man, it's never going to do you wrong. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, especially with music. I mean, people always say it's a dog eat dog world. Man, I've noticed that, like, even back in my touring days, like, we would play with different bands and, hey, we want you guys to, we have a massive crowd tonight. We want you guys to open for us. And then we'd go on the road and open for them when they had a massive crowd. And it was like helping each other out. And I think music can be a community. And I always think, like, man, like, collaboration over competition. I mean, that's always a beautiful thing, man. And I think sometimes we look at like there's only this amount of gigs in the world, or there's only this amount of placements in the world, when it's like, no, like, dude, there's like so many, and there's enough to go around. And I think, when you get that mentality, it changes everything.
Yeah. I think the pie is growing, and like the people who see it. And then the people who are just like, I'm fighting over somebody else. It's like, well, you're never going to eat much, I think, like, also just talking about sync. I mean, like, we can go for production, it can go for sync, it can go for anything, but just the idea that, like, you shouldn't, like, if you have a really good career established, you shouldn't have to fight people for gigs, like over the same gigs. Like, if there's like, let's say you're in a cover band, right? And there's a couple bars in town, right? And you're always fighting over the same place to play, and it just gets annoying. Because a lot of people can't get consistent gigs or whatever. Your whole strategy shouldn't be, my competition is this other artist. Your action should be, my competition is the restaurant and the bar that has nothing going on and people are bored. And how could I help? And that's 99% of the market, Wow. So it's like, even like, that's how I always thought about production, is like, people were like, well, producing is so saturated, you can't get gigs because everybody's producing. And I've my opinion was, my competition is not other producers. My competition is an artist who is learning guitar, is playing guitar, makes a okay song, and they have the realization of, oh, like, how can I make this better? And then they download Logic and they're just inundated and they're so confused and they hate it and they don't want to be part of it. That's my competition, is like that awful experience. So, like, I never had issues getting work, and I still don't,
Yeah. There's
usually
plenty to go around.
Yeah. Cause like most people in music, I mean, if you think about it, most people that pursue music, I'd say 90+% have never really like been in the music community. Say less than 10% of people who actually want to go after music are actively in music communities and like feel like they're part of an industry, whether independent or major, So your competition is not somebody else. It's usually just your prospect, like your customer, not doing anything. That's it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things that's been really special about that pitch, is that it really is community based. I mean, like, people get on there and encourage one another on the Facebook page, or, I mean, man, I've had people like email me, reach out to me. We've had like the meetups in Nashville. And,
that's dope.
I kind of get to see people face to face, and
I can't wait for more of those,
really special. I know, those are really great times, and I still have friends from those moments, and so it's just really cool to realize that, like, like, I think, it kind of reminds me of like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Like, they may have been like competitors on the basketball court, but man, they pushed each other to get better and better. Yeah. And what's really funny is, like, there's this legendary story about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird when they shot that McDonald's commercial where they're like, like they're playing pie out in the yard, and like he's like off the backboard, off the grid, and they're like, they're obviously from such different backgrounds, from different playing styles, but they came together to make that commercial for McDonald's. And then there was this moment where they couldn't shoot because of the weather. Yeah. And so they, Magic Johnson's mom, I think, invited Larry Bird over for dinner or something, and they became like best friends. And like,
awesome.
They sat at the table and just realized, they shared stories till like midnight. And it was just one of those things where it's like, so cool to see that you can fuel each other to get better. Yeah.
And like, if you even think of licensing, because I still think, most people don't really understand sync or music licensing. Everybody just thinks it's, music supervisors and that's it. And I was just on a sync panel couple days ago, I did this event and it was really cool. I was with 3 other people who were like all doing sync full time. It was really dope. And even what we were all talking about is, they're all awesome. Like I love all of them. They're great, but it was very like traditional, get tight with the music supervisor, fly out to LA, meet them, and, cozy up over 10 years. That's awesome. But I had to like consistently restate to the crowd, hey, that's like one way to do it. I'm kind of in this other corner of sync, which this is, in my opinion, this is where everything's going. We work with, music licensing companies, YouTubers, podcasters, all these film directors that just make stuff on your phone instead of major motion film, So like, I think it's in a couple of years, it's going to be a similar situation where, if I'm a producer, I'm going to tell, the artist that I'm working with to work with this mix engineer and then work with that mastering engineer and then like work with this PR agent. I think in the future, what my goal is like, hey, I'm the man with classical music. Like this is my thing, but talk to my buddy Kurtis. He has this catalog. This would be absolutely insane for what you need. And like, I don't think it's, there's a blue ocean, meaning like there's so much out there, and it's been traditional where everybody's fighting over the same fish. It's a red ocean where everybody's like killing each other for this stuff. And I just, if you think of, how many music supervisors are like really active, like really, really active. I'd say there's like less than 1,000, like really active, just doing the thing. I'd say, arguably less than 500 like active ones. And then think of how many musicians are, but then think of how many YouTubers there are. Hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
How many people are on Instagram? How many people have a business profile on Instagram? How many people have a podcast? Those are all your customers. Yeah. So I just like, I'm really excited because I think the future is going to be really, really cool. A lot of collaboration and a lot of just like continuing for everybody to help each other. That's our goal with that pitch, is kind of like spearheading that of like, hey, there's a lot of money out there. Let's just help you connect into it. So
yeah, and I think you guys do that really well. I mean, there's just so many opportunities, and you're adding clients and giving people more chances to pitch to, and I think it's just going to keep growing, man. The best is yet to come, I think.
My man. Yeah, we're excited about the new platform, so hopefully it'll be out in October. We're shooting for that, but I think let's go. I think everyone's gonna freak out with that. It's gonna be really cool. Anyways, well, listen, I've talked your head off. Let's listen to a track that you just placed. That works for you. So before we play it, so again, you've obviously you make a lot of different music, all very, very well, but this was a solo piano piece, and your bread and butter has been CCM music, but it's cool because this is a kind of a subgenre and something that could be applicable, derived from that larger genre that you're great at. I think people don't take that in consideration. They think like, if you only do pop tracks or you only do acoustic guitar, or well, if you do acoustic guitar, you could probably figure out some classical stuff or folk stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you can do from, your skills. And anyways, it's just cool because you landed 3 of these this month. What did you do?
Yeah, I think so.
Hell yeah.
I mean, honestly, like a lot of the CCM music and even like worship music is so much improvisation. It's a lot of ad lib on the fly. You'll just kind of flow on the piano for, I did this thing yesterday for an hour long. I just sat at a piano and played while people came in and prayed and meditated. And so I think you do that enough, you just really learn how to create on the piano. And that's really what's been able to translate into some of the stuff with solo piano and classical with that pitch.
It's awesome. All right. Well, we'll listen to this. And then, cool. Here we go. This one is called Unlock. Love it. Yeah. So I think a reason I'm just going to give my 2 cents. Obviously I'm not the client who chose this. But I, talk to the client every day. So I have a really, really good understanding of why they likely picked it, and why this is just licensable in general. Firstly, and I mean this as a compliment, it's like very basic. Like it has pocket, like how you would tell a drummer. It's got pocket. It's got a simple motif. It just does that, gets stuck in your brain, but you could still have like some dialogue over it. You could have any sort of scene over it. There's not much else going on. You have like an A part. You kind of have like so you have like I'd say the verse, honestly, is probably the first part. You have like a nice sort of pre-chorus, kind of build into a chorus, very short post-chorus / vamp back into the verse. Towards the end, I thought it was cool because you resolved. You had, without getting too music theory nerdy, most of the track had tension. And so you had a couple times where it resolved. So if somebody wanted to put in that part instead, this is just as far as like music goes for the sake of utility, which that is what music licensing in sync is you're not the star. This is supposed to help somebody else, right?
Support something else.
This was just, this was a great piece to just use. Like you really just have building blocks that any sort of filmmaker could easily use. And there's, again, it's very simple. There's just so much pocket. And the thing is, like, I grew up with piano. I primarily consider myself a drummer as far as like, that's like what I went to school for, but like, piano was my primary instrument growing up. And I would imagine like how long did you, how long did it take you to make this? Half hour, you cook it out?
Oh man, 20 minutes.
Right,
I think.
Right. And I don't mean that like as a diss. It's just like, I said like half hour. It's like you, did you record this? Like,
that's the thing. Like I literally will, I'll get something in my head, and I'll go up to the piano and just lay it down, pick out some sounds that I think complement the vibe of it. With this particular one, I think I was like listening to a Spotify playlist that you guys connected to the brief. And I just kind of noticed that a lot of it had like that waltzy kind of feel.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of just put my spin on something, and I had some chords and some structures that I was farting around with. So I just kind of like put that together, and I found some really great piano tones. I use a lot of stuff from like Una Corda.
Oh, nice.
I use a couple things from Spitfire, a couple things.
Love Spitfire.
All the contact stuff. And I've got some other sounds that I've been working with, but man, it's super simple. It's repetitive, but it's got that theme. It kind of sticks in your head, but it doesn't step on anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't like you're never, if you're this, playing at church every weekend, the last thing you want is a drummer doing too much, again, like I used to, again, I'm Jewish, but I would sub for my friends, like at their church gigs, if they were on a trip or like, I subbed like for this massive Easter Sunday. There was like 5,000 or 6,000 people there or something, and I got a call at 5 a.m.
Oh my!
And
those are always fun.
Well, it was funny because like I didn't know anybody there, and so I just wanted to preface them. I'm like, hey, like just like I'm totally down. Like this is for drumming on CCM. It's very easy. It's just like,
yeah.
You just don't play much. Everything's a build, and then you just watch for the cue. That's it.
Yes.
But it was a funny story because
the hand signals.
Right. And so I said to them on the phone, I was like, "Hey guys, like, I just want to let you know, prior to hiring me, like, I'm Jewish." And they were like, "Oh yeah, like no problem." I'm like, "No, like, I'm not Jew for Jesus. Like, I'm Seinfeld Jewish." And they were like, no, you're good. No, please come. We would love to have you. And I was like, awesome.
That's awesome.
But
I love it.
It was great.
I'm Seinfeld.
Yeah. No, they were great. But yeah, it's funny. Like back to like the drums or backing band, the whole thing, especially if there's dialogue going on, you got to feel the room. And I think like growing up playing with bands, you know, you said like you toured, like you have like such a background of, you know, playing music for a certain purpose, not just to show off, so to speak. It's like you can feel the room, and like that definitely shows. It translates to production where you're like, a lot of people would have made this track and they're like, maybe I should add stuff, you know, I should sprinkle it, you know, that would impress a client. No, like not having something there is a harder thing to do. It takes so much maturity, you know? Yeah. So a lot of times the less the song has, the better it is.
Right. That works out well for me because less is more is my whole MO in life, man.
Oh, dude, that's like been my life lately. I'm just trying to eliminate as many things as possible. Like,
that's it.
Yeah, just like how can we simplify it, literally everything, so we can just do the fun stuff, you know?
I'm right there with you, brother.
Anyways, so two things. First, any advice that you have for anybody, you know, pursuing licensing, their music career in general? You've been like all over the industry. You know, obviously you're relatively newer in sync and licensing, but like you're killing it. So like, I don't know, just like what advice do you have for anybody pursuing it? Anything in music?
Yeah, man. I think, you know, for me, it was interesting. My first, I mean, I sort of have been doing pitching and licensing and sync stuff, off and on since like 2014, but not really getting serious until 2019. And then, kind of when I discovered that pitch, you know, kind of right off the bat, man, had a lot of success and, was landing placements every month, and then kind of hit a dry patch. And I think for me, it was like, I kind of had like, I don't know, just like a discouragement moment of like, oh man, maybe my stuff's not good anymore, or maybe it's kind of been played. And, you know, so I was kind of like, well, let's just keep going. Like, let's just like not get discouraged and stuff. And I think what was cool about that is like, now I'm starting to see some things pick up again. And, you know, it's one of those things where you just got to count every placement as a blessing and not, you know, expect it every month, and just, you know, continuously try to get better at your craft. I think that's one of the cool things about seeing guys on that pitch that are always landing stuff. Like, you know, I love kind of seeing what Ian and Daniel are putting out there, and like, you know, it's just kind of inspire like, man, okay, like, yeah, like I need to get to it. You know, I need to get on the piano this morning, or, you know, it's like I once was in a room with one of the great worship songwriters. I mean, this guy has like landed 250 cuts. His name's Jason Ingram.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
And he was like talking to this room of like 20 songwriters. And he said, you know, you're not a songwriter unless your calendar says you're a songwriter.
Yep.
And he explained that like every single day from like 7 to 12, he marks off, I'm in the piano room, I'm in the guitar, I'm writing, you know. And so I thought that kind of was like a challenge really for people that want to do sync. It's like, hey, I'm not a sync writer unless my calendar says I'm a sync writer. And so it doesn't matter how busy I get, you know, I try to carve out some time. I've got the standard little Akai keyboard, and sometimes I'm on a plane and I'm putting together an ambient track, and some of those have landed, you know? So, you know, it's like, it's really cool because I think you got to find time. And then number one, that's number one. But number two, I would say is like, you know, there's a period where like it can shift into a job mindset. And I mean, you know, the old quote where it's like, find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Yep. I think the same is like with sync, you know, like I just love making music. And the moment that it becomes about, I've got to land, this has to make X amount of money. I mean, I know there's bills to pay and there's stuff, but like, don't let it go out of that love relationship with music. I mean, because that's when you're going to create like nobody created anything incredible under a massive amount of stress, you know,
dude.
Like,
I'm guilty of that. Like from my production career to even running that pitch. Like, again, I didn't set out to like start what we have now where like we paid out like over $1 million. Like I didn't like set out to like do that years ago, you know? And it's kind of funny because I've been surrounded by certain people where they're like super only business, and they don't have like the soul or the taste behind, you know, why are we doing music? And the more time I spend with, like, I love them, but like if I spend a lot of time, I start thinking about things that like I shouldn't be thinking about. I think about like metrics and like conversion optics and just like stuff that I really could give a shit about. Like I don't care about any of that. Like I think it's boring. It's so soulless. And like, I didn't trick myself into having a 9 to 5 like this, you know, like you still have to have the love for all of this. And like, anytime I just focus on like, it's kind of funny. Anytime I focus on like, hey, how can it be more people like in the licensing world? Like, and how can I help? And how can I just like help the community and like make sure everyone's landing more placements? It's like, well, we grow. It's just like, you know, imagine that just giving a shit and things work. Like just care about the things that you care about. And
that's funny, isn't it?
And that was like, that's like producing as well. Like I got my biggest cuts, like with Future, Lil Baby, Joji. I got my biggest cuts in the year, like that I really was just like winding down. I was like, you know what? I can be a little bit more chill on the hustle with this, you know?
That's the same story with me, man. So I was in Nashville from 2005 to 10. I was on a publishing deal and I couldn't land any cuts, man. I was just really stressed out writing with some big country writers and pop guys. And what's crazy is I ended up moving to Washington, D.C. to go on staff at this church up there. And I wasn't even thinking about landing any cuts or anything. And in my first 6 months in DC, I got a call from Sony. Hey, your song is on Wow Gospel. I get a call from this artist with Provident, get a call with another artist. I landed a top 20 Billboard gospel song and all of it. I wasn't even trying. So I think there's something to it when like you're trying so hard to make something happen. Oftentimes it can have a reverse effect and it squelches your love for the music. It squelches your creativity. And sometimes you just gotta, you know, in the church world, we say it kind of jokingly, but it's like, hey, let go and let God, man. Like, you know, sometimes you just have to, you know, just remember like why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, there's this, I think it was like in some sort of Stoicism book I read or something. But I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of like the law of the cat or something. And that the premise is that, you know, anytime you chase a cat around, like you're trying to catch, like if you have a cat or something, they're always running away from you. If you put your hand down, and you're like, hey, I need you to move. Like they will run away from you. But if you stop caring and like, you're just like, I don't give a shit. And you're just doing nothing. They come up to you and they want to cuddle.
So true.
Honestly,
that's
sounds
funny.
Like my dating career before I was married. Okay.
But you learned, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So the law applies everywhere where it's just like, you know, at the end of the day, I think now, like lately, and I'm not going to like blame TikTok. I'm not going to be one of those people, but people see people in allegedly very high places and they're like, oh, that can happen quick for me too. You know, whatever.
Right.
But what people like don't ever take into account is like every single career was just built brick by brick, you know, like my what I would consider like my main mentor in the music industry right now. He started his business like 14 or 15 years ago. And before that, he had his own label for like years. And, you know, shit didn't start popping off until like a couple of years ago, you know, and
that's it, man.
It's, you know, it's just boring. And that's the good part about it. It's just what's the saying? It's like, Chuck wood, carry water, you know?
Chuck would carry water.
Or is that the Chuck wood? Is it Chuck wood?
I don't know. I literally thought you just were giving me two names. Like this guy's Chuck Wood and this is Carry Water.
No, but it's like it's just like you're going to chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Okay. It's just like you're going to do the boring shit every day and you just like you build and build and build. 99%.
And then you got a house.
Yeah. 99% of your career is going to be mundane. You're not going to be doing much that day. You're not going to be in the room with the super cool person. You're not going to get your Grammy nom. You're not going to get your plaque. You're not going to hear, oh my God, dude, you got a crazy royalty check coming your way. Like that's 99%. 99% of your career is like just sitting around working on, you know, music, working on your site, maybe if you're lucky, getting lunch with some friends, like, and that's what it is. And like, people need to realize that like, it's okay. Like, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. There's this, one of my favorite like analogies is the Chinese bamboo plant. I mean, it's like, the cool thing is like, you can plant a bamboo tree and you won't see anything. Like, you'll water it, it'll get sunlight and all that stuff the first year, second year, third year. And you're like, man, maybe this was like a dead seed. Fourth year, the same thing. But in year 5, a Chinese bamboo tree will sprout up 80 feet in 6 weeks. And it's crazy because you're like, whoa, this thing came out of nowhere. But what you didn't see was the 4 years of growth underneath the soil.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the same thing with like a lot of times with music or a lot of times, like, man, even the people that you see that's like, oh man, that was an overnight success, dude. That was like years in the making,
even like, this is actually really funny. I think you'll find this funny because we had a call not too recently where I like let you know everything that was going on and like what we were doing, between new clients and like building the new platform. And, this year in that pitch, like I've been just like, like head down working. And it's been like, I wrote an email today that probably took me 4 hours because it was just like, technical things that I needed like for the new site and just like, we built out, like, not to bore you too much, but like we have like these compliance systems to make sure you guys aren't like committing copyright infringements to protect everyone because nobody knows the fuck they're doing. So I have to do it for you.
Right. Hey, thanks, Mark.
But like, the reason I build that up is like, or bring that up is like this year to me has been pretty boring. Like there's no, there's no like you're not seeing the trees like sprout with like new flowers. It's just all roots, and that's going to be normal in so many times in your career where it's just like your roots are just getting deeper because that's going to help, the actual tree grow later on. But like most of the growth in your career is not going to be visible. It's not going to be super sexy. Most people aren't going to see it. You're not going to get compliments every day. And that's, I think, where the true people show up is when you can remove your ego and like your need to feel important versus like, how can I just help? And frankly, like a lot of my friends who get like massive deals with like labels or publishers or whatever, they get the deal and then sometimes they have a lot going on after. But I think we both know a lot of people who got a pub or a label deal that like they got basically shelved and then they get, crickets, and then they just get super depressed because they feel trapped because like the label's not doing anything to like push them in the middle of everything. They're not feeling super important. And, at the same time, they don't really have control over building it. It's like, they look back and they're just like, fuck, like I just really wanted validation of getting a deal. And now I have it. And like, they start realizing like, I have like other problems I need to work on. Like, this is like, I need to work on life. Like I need to work on, you know what I'm saying? And so that's where it's just like, I happen to be in music, but like, I just want to help. So
you got to find your why. And it has to go a lot further than just music. I mean, that was the thing with our band. It was like, when we were touring, it was always like, man, if we play in front of this many people, then we'll finally make it. Well, then you play in front of that many people and you're like, okay, what's next? Yeah. Like, so you're always chasing the endless rainbow. And, I think if your why behind everything is tied to a metric or it's tied to a number or success in that format, I think you're going to always kind of end up, it's like drinking salt water, you're getting water in your mouth, but you're just never satisfied.
It's like cause I had been producing since I was in high school. And like, when I finally started getting like some big, no, you didn't. Are you good? No, don't worry about it.
No, something was making like a helicopter noise on my desk and I was like, what is that? And then I realized something was on this keyboard down here.
Anyways. But yeah, like when I got my first major label credit, that was dope. And I was like, wow, like this is awesome. And then every single one after that, like I'm grateful. Like it's not that I'm not grateful. I'm so grateful. But I wasn't like sulking in my greatness all week. I was just like, I had another cool. Like so it's a lot of times I just like forget to post about it. Like I'm stoked about it, but I'm just like, it didn't turn my life upside down.
If you want to throw some of those my way, I mean, I will take them, man. Like, let's go.
Yeah. But no, it's cool though. Yeah, it's the same thing with licensing. You get your first and you're like, awesome. And then each one you're just like, all right, let's just keep this going. This is
exactly.
So, yeah. Anyways, and then last thing, do you have any pluggables? Anywhere you want people to go, listen to your music, anything?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, it's been really fun. I've actually started, since I've been working with That Pitch, a lot of the instrumentals and, especially the piano and acoustic tracks have been kind of taken off on Spotify, man. So you can check it out. Kurtis Parks on Spotify. I'm on Instagram at Kurtis Parks. I'm doing another project. It's going to be all strings and piano and really cool lo-fi type beats. That's going to come out later this year. So yeah, man, just kind of keep an eye on that stuff, but it's been super fun. And I think if anything, jumping into this world, I've been in it now for a couple of years, and it's just really inspired me to just continue to make music that helps people. I mean, like you said, it's been about helping people. I've had so many people reach out and just say, hey man, I'll put your songs on and it just takes me to a peaceful place or a better place. And, I think that's the coolest thing is like, I would have never discovered that joy of music in my life if it hadn't been for like landing these placements. And now I'm like really passionate about it and doing a second album. I did a first album that was all piano and strings called The Presence of God. And that's done really well. And, I'm just excited, man. I'm always excited to continue to make new music and, see what's around the bend for That Pitch, man. It's been a fun thing to be a part of.
You're the best. Love you to bits, bud. What a guy. All right. Well,
hey man, you too, man. You too.
All right. We're going to close it up for today. Again, guys, if you want to start licensing your music, go to thatpitch.com and hang out with the crew, and hopefully we'll start landing you a bunch of shit. All right, have a good day. Love you.
Let's do it.
Cool. We're gonna stop it.